we get so used to watching things that don't feel like life at all because it's the structure of the thing. So we were kind of rolling the dice that this would work the same way.
Like, I think trying to find the Bay visual representation in the way that our sets are built, or the way that the show's going to look, or the way that we're sort of populating our sets with touchstones for everybody who's from the Bay is this like massive sort of collaborative effort. And some people take it on more than others, and other people take it on more than us. You know, there's some people on our crew, because they're not from the Bay, they like double down even harder than us to sort of go there and do the work and like pick up the phone and call people and get things shipped and brought in and, you know, do a crazy amount of research. And I think what starts to come out, which I think was a learning curve for me and David, is that we don't actually know that much about the Bay. You know, that like when you're actually asked like, hey, what kind of beams are these? You're like, I don't fucking know. And some architect is like, what they are. And they first came to Oakland because of this, and they left because of this. And you realize like your home pride at times sort of limits how much you actually, because you're really from there and no one can question that, you're not learned in the same way of like some of the historical significance of why certain things are the way they are. I think that's also true for the viewers. The viewers, like everyone watching, has their own perception of what the Bay is, and it's from their corner of the world. But when you're forced to think about representing it accurately for a couple of years with a bunch of people conspiring on it, you realize that like the reality of the Bay and the Bay that we all talk about or we have in our minds are two different things. One is a real place that is inarguable, and the other one is a feeling that we get from that place. And so navigating that divide is really tricky because we're trying to capture the feeling, but we're also trying to be accurate, because accurate is going to catch the most amount of people, because that's what it really is. And so what's really fascinating about the debate about the show is oftentimes a debate about what is and what it feels like, and which one we emphasized in that moment.
The TV show was like, whoa, and this is all, we didn't know any of this would work, but if somebody's going to come back to something every week, like maybe it's a different beast. Like maybe you don't have to handhold as much because you're not really getting one bite at this. Maybe if it's compelling enough, you can just do some weird shit. And if somebody comes back to see it again, they might eventually just be like, oh, well, that's the, and you sort of like, if you ever take a break, this was particularly true when like the like multicam like network sitcom was like the real thing that always happened. You know what I'm saying? Like if you watch a bunch of those and then you stop watching them for a month and then you go back to watching them, they feel insane.
Yeah.
They like, there's nothing, all that is just audience training. That's all. We get so used to watching things that don't feel like life at all because it's the structure of the thing. So we were kind of rolling the dice that this would work the same way, that we could do really elevated things. And because we're actually more used to weird shit in TV, particularly in comedy, like they're weird. They're actually weird. And there are things that should take you out of the action all the time, but don't, because we're used to watching them in this box and we're going to come back to watch them in this box. And what we learned about the half-hour format is when you get to remove, not focus so much on plot, and really what you're coming back to see is the characters. Like the most important thing is to give them a full inner life. And if you get to do that in an artistic way, it actually becomes really compelling to watch. And like there's, in my opinion, so far in my limited experience doing that, there's actually more space for that in a half-hour format than in an hour format.
It was rewarding. There were so many days when I'd look at our crew and on a long day, especially like we had those 3 days when we were in kind of that 105 like blackout world with like crazy scenes, and I would turn to them, I know you're tired, and it was like, guys, we are not shooting coverage right now. Like we're shooting something so cool and so different. We're shooting a TV show where we don't have to pick 5 shots and we shoot those 5 shots for the whole season. Like we're being asked and pushed to come up with interesting and unique things to do, and it's so rewarding to be part of something that where you get to, you know, tell stories in a really creative and colorful way that's not just the norm.
Tarin just came in with all of this sort of amazing positive energy and creativity, and all of her ideas were very like yes and what about, and we could do this, and you know, David and I, we proposed insane things, and it requires somebody who's like, you know how we could get that, you know how we could do that, as opposed to like that can't be done, you know. And Tarin's just another yes and person who really saw the excitement and the potential of the world building, and saw how colorful it can be, and how colorful and simultaneously moody. And, you know, and we'd come in and say, we want to do a shot where it goes down the hallway and comes out the door. And she'd be like, I totally know how to do that. All right, here's what we're going to do. And it just became a truly exciting and beautiful collaborative relationship. And I honestly just don't think the show would even exist if she hadn't come aboard.
The whole season is a huge creative swing, but 5 was like trying to do like an Olympic style like diving trick while taking a creative swing, you know. So so yeah, that was something else. Like I there were so many things. I was like, I looked at the footage and I was like, okay, I'm gonna cut it this way and this way and this way and whatever. And then when Erin, the director, came on, she's like, oh wow, I only have 30 seconds to shoot that shot. I don't know how you found what you found to make this thing work. And then it went through like 7 different versions. The whole thing was intense, but just wonderful. Like, I was sleepless with a new baby at home, and like working with these guys from like 8 a.m. to like, you know, 8 p.m. And I would like enthusiastically do it again the next day.
All right, there's a row of inmates in a cop car and he's rapping. And then, you know, we're kind of following back with him as he goes, and we need to come to the side of him eventually, but they're all dancers. You know? And then when he gets about halfway down, I think the floodlight starts going. Tarin's like, we'll put one up there. And then she was suggesting we'll put up a light in the abandoned house and we'll blast it from the side of them. So there's this great sort of silhouette color edging. And then so you see when we go high now, we start seeing this searchlight to make it even more chaotic as it's going on. And it just adds to the drama of it. And the reality is like, and this was a wild thing to cut. And we were throwing stuff like this at Varun and Craig over and over again. Like, yeah, you know, just put it together. Like, this is an insane thing to ask an editor to do. But we, you know, the reality is like David and I can sort of come up with the initial insanity of an idea on the page. But the amount of co-conspiratorship that is required between a few department heads to make this thing happen, like it's sort of impossible to truly state, because I've never seen anything like this on television before. You know, it's not something that you're supposed to be able to do in a 5-day per episode shooting schedule. This is an insane set piece.